Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren.
Today we'll be doing another book talk trend and answering some fun questions on the spot without any time to prepare. Here we go. So this is split up between specifically books we've read on the podcast and then any book under the sun. So we're going to do the podcast ones first. And the first category is a book with a pretty cover.
What happens if I read a book not under the sun? Perhaps it was dark time. What
Under the
happens?
Stars?
Because that still count under
Then it's
not
disqualified.
the sun.
Correct.
I think
Oh.
you're disqualified, actually. Just voted
That's a
off the
lot
island.
of books because I read sometimes at nighttime. So
Yeah, sorry about your luck.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help
If only you'd made better choices.
Yeah.
Okay, a book with a pretty cover for the podcast. So I would say Magic Steeped in Poison. And it's the best part of that. It's not even like, because I'm pretty sure they've now released like different versions of that. But the OG version of that book is just so pretty. And that's literally one of the reasons why I picked up the book, because I was like, ooh, pretty. Like a little child with like, ooh, like what is it? What's his name in Aladdin when he's like, ooh, Jim, Abu. That was me with the Magic Steep in Poison. Now I've seen different versions of it and they all look really cool. But like the OG version of this, if you haven't, you should Google it because it's really, really pretty. And I have both of those in my bookshelf, and I think they're really pretty, very pretty. So that would be
Michael,
mine.
It is a very pretty
I'm
cover.
skipping Michael for a second because mine was also a Magic Steeped in Poison, so we might as well just talk about it. When Barbara picked this one for the podcast and I went and bought it, I was like, man, this is a really pretty cover. Like, it's
Right?
one that I would pick up just because of the cover alone. So, and now, yeah, I did see the last time I went to our Barnes and Noble.
Mhm.
I think there's one with sprayed edges now.
Yes, there is. There is.
I love a good sprayed edge book, but I had already owned this one, so I refrained from purchasing the one with the sprayed edges, but this was also my pick.
It's really hard not to buy like books that I really, really like, and then they have a new version of it, and it's a pretty version. I'm like, how dare you?
I know, it's like, can I just trade in my ugly one?
Right,
for the
exactly. I'd
pretty
be like,
one?
I would like to trade this one in. Thank you.
It's like a car. I want an upgrade.
So can I do mine now? Is that allowed? Okay.
Well, oh my god.
I'm just kidding.
Only if you read it under the sun.
That one lady, I know that one
daytime.
lady's gonna come and get us and be like, you don't even let that man speak.
So I have a lot of really pretty books, but I was struggling to find one specifically for the podcast. Shout out to Barbara for reminding me of this one. The Name of the Wind, I have the 10th anniversary deluxe edition, which is a really pretty cover, and it's got sprayed red edges, which also adds to the cool look on the shelf. So that is my pick for podcast book with the prettiest cover.
Now we're definitely in that whole era of like cool covers and stuff like that, and we definitely have a bunch of those, but we haven't read them for the podcast, so hence why we didn't pick them.
I hadn't seen this one. Michael linked it in our chat. So
the one he picked?
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually really cool.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Pretty cool
Kind of terrifying a little bit, but really cool.
I've actually never gone back because you had the physical book, so I checked it out from the library. And I've actually not looked at it because it has cool little inserts and stuff, and I actually need to go.
It does. It has some illustrations in there.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't pay as much attention to covers as much recently just because I read so much on audio. And so I don't maybe appreciate the cover art as much as I used to because it's just like a tiny thumbnail now on my phone when I'm listening. So
no, that's fair. Next category for podcast books is biggest letdown. Biggest letdown for me for the podcast book, which I apologize in advance to Lauren because she picked this one, was Magic for Liars. I say biggest letdown because I was really excited to read it. It sounded like a really good book. I even remember when Barbara and I found it at Barnes & Noble and told Lauren about it. It sounded like such a good book. And it was just not what I thought it was going to be. Not that it was necessarily a bad book. It just wasn't the book that I was expecting based on reading the back of the book. So it was, I won't say, so I picked it for biggest letdown. I picked that because of what Barbara and I think Lauren are going to say for their biggest letdowns. But Barbara's biggest letdown was actually one of my probably a slightly larger letdown, but I'll let her talk about that when it gets to her.
You don't need to apologize to me for picking that one because I'm pretty sure you recommended that book to me. And we all thought it was going to be better than it was. So
It was actually a Barnes and Noble's employee who did.
oh, was it?
Yes, it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And then like we read the back and we were like, actually, yeah, that does sound
Yeah,
good.
we're like, oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And I was like Michael said, it wasn't like
It
a
wasn't
terrible
terrible.
book. It was just like not what I was expecting from the
It
cover.
was played up big, and then
it's like when you pick out a cookie and you think it's chocolate chip and you bite into it and it's raisin and you're like, what the hell is this? That's that feeling, you know?
Yes, like I like
are
an
you still
oatmeal
happy
raisin
you had a cookie? Yes, I am still happy I had a cookie. Was it the cookie I was looking forward to? It sure wasn't. You know? Sure wasn't.
Well, on that note, the one I kind of was between two. So Priory of the Orange Tree or Midnight Library. Those are two that I felt like Priory was really, again, there was a lot of hype around it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of an oatmeal cookie for me. I love a good oatmeal raisin cookie if I know that's what I'm getting. But it fell short a little bit of my expectations. There weren't as many of the things that I would have wanted. And then Midnight Library, I did really like Midnight Library, but it was another one that I like read the back and read the Goodreads reviews and was like super stoked to read. And it was good, but it wasn't mind blowing. And then like the mental health aspects in there that I was thinking were going to be really good were not as well done as I would have hoped. So couple of letdowns a little bit. Still good books though.
Mm-hmm. All valid. And I agree with you. Mine is Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And everyone knows this because I feel like I've harped on it. This Grady Hendrix author knows how to write a back of the book. I don't know, like a synopsis. I don't know what the actual technical term for that is. I know there's an actual term for that, but that man knows how to write it because literally all of his books sound amazing. But I could not get over how crappy this book was. Like maybe I had too high expectations. Maybe I don't know, but it was just terrible writing. It's super problematic if you ask me. There's just so many bad things about that book. That was a huge letdown, and I feel slighted by it because like his books actually do really sound good. And so it's like I want to pick up another one, but if that's how he writes, I feel like it's not going to change. I really don't think it's going to change. So if someone out there has read another one of his books and said, "Hey, maybe it's just that one. Maybe you like this one," I will give it a try, but like I literally refuse to read any of his other books now because of that.
I will say, obviously, I agree with you because I said that this was also a letdown for me, but there's also a chance that the things that get you excited to read a Grady Hendrix book aren't written by Grady Hendrix.
That's true.
No, I thought that was the author who does pitches.
In traditional publishing, if their author's big enough, they don't always write their own. It's called jacket copy. They don't always write their own jacket copy.
Tis true.
I have. So it could be somebody else at his publisher who's writing that.
Writing that is a freaking amazing, and I would like that person because holy crap, can they sell a book? Because
yes. Well, and they do. They sell lots of books for him.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, I think 2 of his books have turned into like, I don't know, Amazon like TV shows or like movies or something like that, but then none of them do well. Like I don't hear anyone be like, "Oh, that was so good." Everyone's like, "Well, that was slightly disappointing." So it's like, is it a theme?
Well, he got me again with the most recent Barnes and Noble like hardcover sale that they did.
Yeah.
So I now own the How to Sell a Haunted House, and
the Exorcism of My Best Friend. Like I know there's something book like that. Like that one sounds really fun, like good, but like I'm not picking them up. Like they're just.
I'll let you know how the Haunted House one is if it's any
fair.
Better than
I'm actually curious to know. I feel like you're gonna be my guinea pig because I can do a whole TED talk about that book and how super problematic it is. But yeah,
you're right. All of his books do sound good, and I am curious what Lauren has to say when she does read the next one. Let's see. Our last podcast only category is biggest eye roll at the character's choices.
That would be The Housemaid for me. Like overall, the book was good. I'm not saying that the book was not good. Like I enjoyed certain things about it, but I forgot the main chick's name. I already forgot her name, but her. Why you be sleeping with a married man? Like that's just a blanket no. Like I don't care what is you're dealing with and how crappy his wife is or like in, you know, like if you're a dude and how crappy like I don't know, you just don't do that. Like you just don't sleep with married people. You just don't. Like I don't care what's going on. Like I don't care if they're hitting on you, you get out. Just leave. There's so many things, like the hot gardener dude was telling you to leave and you still didn't leave. Like there's so many choices that woman made that I'm just like, bitch, what? Like what is happening and why are you doing this? So definitely that one, because it's the most one that we just read recently that's like fresh in my mind, that I remember just being like, what are you doing? Stop. Like if I was your friend, I'd be slapping you in the face. That one. I forgot her name, but her.
Frida McFadden. Or that was
Well,
the
character's
person?
name. I forgot her name already. I don't remember. Jennifer? I don't know.
It wasn't Jennifer. Nina Winchester
Nina's
was
the other chick.
Right. She was like the wife.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It'll come to me.
Melanie?
The housemaid. No. The housemaid was mine too. Just because it is probably the freshest in my brain. And yeah, like I think when she came on to the gardener guy, like that was
so awkward.
Just like awkward and like kind of just an eye roll trope moment, which it's like, oh, the hot gardener's looking at me and I haven't had sex in forever because I've been in jail or whatever. Like it just kind of like, oh my gosh, really? Like, are you really gonna like hit on
I felt a secondhand embarrassment for her. It's not even a real person. Like just because he's a dude doesn't mean he wants to F you, lady. Like Jesus. Yes. Like she's just like, hey, and he's like, oh.
So there were definitely some eye roll worthy moments in that one. So I would agree.
I mean, I also had a bunch of eye roll moments in The Housemaid, but just to give something different, I'm going to pick How to Solve Your Own Murder, which I actually really enjoyed that book. But I feel like, and I want to, before I talk about this specifically, I want to generally say that in most books where it's an amateur detective, or in this case, a mystery writer, trying to solve an actual crime, and they put themselves in a dangerous situation with an actual bad person or a murderer, I always roll my eyes at that. So it's not just this. There are lots of books where this trope happens and where like this normal, like everyday Jane is like, I'm going to confront the bad guy by himself. He's 6'4", 300 pounds and has a knife, but I think I'll be fine. Right? It's like, what are you doing? Huge eye roll. So that's why I picked this one, because it did have a scene like that. I was not going to go into spoilers because that's not the point of this episode. But
well, I mean, we kind of talked about spoilers in the other book, so I feel like a bonus podcast is like up in the air for spoilers.
That means that what I said is the gist of why I picked that. I always roll my eyes at a scene where somebody puts themselves in a situation where there's a chance they could get killed, and it just feels very stupid to put yourself in that situation.
They weren't putting them in the like positions of where they could get killed.
That was domestic violence.
That was domestic violence. Right. So like, you need to like specify what you mean. Like after they murdered their husbands, you mean?
Yeah. You guys weren't listening to what I said. I don't think I said I chose How to Solve Your Own Murder was the book that I said, not The Best Way to Bury Your Husband.
The best way to bury your husband.
Which one's How to Solve Your Own Murder?
That's the one where
her
she goes,
great aunt.
That's right. I was thinking. Sorry, I was thinking the other one because that's the one you said you were gonna pick.
So to be clear to our listeners, I'm not making light of domestic violence. I don't know why Lauren and that's what I was doing. I specifically said,
did he not say he was
gonna solve your own murder? Before we started recording, I said that I might pick that one. I pivoted to How to Solve Your Own Murder because it's a bigger eye roll for me. So that's
okay. That makes more sense. Okay, fair.
That's
not trying to get me canceled.
I'm not trying to get you canceled.
I am.
At least
that tracks.
I'm just kidding.
So that is mine. Let's see. I think I was the last one on that. So now moving into the any book categories. The first one is a popular book you have not read yet. I am going to catch some flack for this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's the point of the category. And mine is Dune. I have had it on my want to read list forever. I own a very nice copy of the book that I've started reading more than once. I have no excuse from before the podcast, but it's sometimes hard to read multiple books when we're doing the podcast because depending on how much time I have with other stuff I've got going on or other things that I want to do. So I start reading Dune and then have to switch to the podcast book and then never come back to Dune. And that's happened like 3 or 4 times. So that is mine. I want to read it. I want to read it so bad. I loved the movies. I've been wanting to read this book for so long, but I've got to put myself on Front Street and admit that that's the popular book I've not yet read.
The one that I picked is popular in certain circles, not your circles. So you might not have heard of this.
Okay.
Well, so it's like a dark fantasy romantasy situation. So it's called Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. So this is one that's popular on BookTok in certain, like, it just depends. I feel like BookTok isn't created equal because, like, I am on fantasy BookTok, but I am also on like romantasy BookTok, and I'm also on like Murder All Your Friends BookTok. So,
oh my god, murder all your friends.
not all
Is
your
that a hint?
maybe.
If this is a disclaimer, if Barbara and I's bodies are found in mysterious situations, consider Lauren as a suspect. Maybe
Yeah.
after
You
that
know,
comment.
in all of our years of podcasting, I feel like the people that mentioned the person we should be most concerned about would be Barbara. Okay, because she has talked about murder.
I have never talked about murder. I like characters that
So if
have
there's
murdered
ever-
people. There's a difference.
Let me adjust my disclaimer. If there's ever a situation where someone on this podcast has died in unexplainable ways, maybe we should look at some of the co-hosts.
That's fair. That's probably fair. Phantasma also has a pretty cool cover. It's not like the coolest cover I've ever seen, but it is pretty, which is why I picked it up to begin with. And then I realized that it was more popular. But anyway,
what
it's
is
on my shelf.
What is it about?
I can just read you the synopsis.
I'd rather you not, but no. I'm just
okay. Well,
I'm just kidding.
So when Ophelia and her sister discover their mother brutally murdered, there's no time to grieve. Ophelia has inherited both her powerful, death-driven magic and enormous debt on their home. Circumstances go from dire to deadly, however, when Ophelia's sister decides to pay off the loan by entering Phantasma, a competition where most contestants don't make it out alive, and the winner is granted a single wish. The only way to save her sister is to compete, but Phantasma is a cursed manor with twisting corridors and lavish ballrooms and filled with enticing demons and fatal temptations. Ophelia will need to face 9 floors of challenges to win if her fears don't take her first. When a charming, arrogant stranger claims he can protect and guide Ophelia, she knows that she shouldn't trust him. While Blackwell may not seem dangerous, appearances can be deceptive. But with her sister's life on the line, Ophelia can't afford to turn him away. She just needs to ignore the overwhelming dark attraction drawing them closer and closer together. Because in Phantasma, I said it's a dark romantasy.
Oh, okay.
Because in Phantasma, the only thing deadlier than losing the game is losing your heart. Dun dun dun.
Oh so, wow, yeah,
it is considered dark. I think dark romance, dark fantasy.
That's a whole thing now. I've realized it's a whole like subgenre.
Spicy dark romantasy is how readers describe it.
Okay. Interesting.
So, but it kind of feels like a dark, spicy version of like Hunger Games a little. I don't know, like the whole competition factor and we shall see. Divergent, Hunger Games, like those sorts of like, oh, you have to enter to compete and then you have to, you know, whatever to save lives. But then this one has more of a dark romantasy spin. So it's real popular on TikTok. It's popular in the dark romance world, so it's on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
Oh well, there you go.
I'll get to it.
I can't say I've heard of that one, but like you said, I feel like BookTok is very broad.
Well, and yeah, you guys don't read a lot of like romance in general, so it would not come up on your algorithm either way.
No, fantasy, but not romantasy for me. Anyways, popular book I have not yet read. Any Sarah J. Maas book or Moss book? I think it's Moss. Moss?
I think it's Moss.
I think it's Moss.
Moss. And Fourth Wing. I know those are extremely popular. I have yet to read any of those, and I plan on not reading any of those. So it's kind of funny because I literally was trying to Google, and those are literally the ones that pop up. So I feel like that's pretty much it. I don't want to, and I have zero want to read those, but those are extremely popular. So, yep. Those are mine, I guess.
All right, moving on to our next category, a book series you should have DNF'd.
So I don't know. I was hesitant on this question because like I just DNF it if I don't want to finish the series. So like there's not really any series other than the one that I'm going to talk about that I actually read through the series and then was like, man, I shouldn't have read the last book, or I should have DNF'd it, which is the Divergent series. I really liked the first, I can't remember how many books there are total.
I think there's
are there
4, right? I think
so in that case, I really like the first 3, and I was really disappointed with how they ended up wrapping it up. Whatever it is, however many there are, I didn't like the last book. And so if I would have stopped before reading the last book of that series, I think I would have been much more satisfied. And
3.
shout out to
There's
Barbara for reminding me about the Divergent series.
There's 3 with one like that was a sub book after the fact called 4.
Oh, okay, so I didn't read that one. So then
Yeah, me
I should
neither.
have stopped at book 2.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and I think I actually even liked the first third or the first half of the third book, but I just did not like how they ended it, and I also did not like the movie adaptation of the third book either. So
I mean, no one did, and that's why they ended it without even ending the story.
Yeah.
So that's an issue. Yeah, so I'm on the same boat as Lauren. I was thinking back, like, I don't. The one that I started that I can remember that I just stopped reading because I absolutely did not like them was the City of Bone series, and I'm not sure if that's what the actual series are called, or is called, I should say. The first one of the book, or the first one of the series, is called City of Bones. I'm not quite sure what the actual series is called. I think Cassandra Clare might be the author of those. I'm not 100%
That
sure
is
if
the
that's
author.
right. Okay. So I never finished
Mortal
the
Instruments,
series.
that's the series.
There we go. Mortal Instruments. Never finished the series. I think I read 2 and it was like, that's not for me, so I just stopped reading it. As far as like, and then I was thinking back, and it was the Divergent series, like Lauren mentioned, where I absolutely loved the first book. Second one was just okay, and then I was reading the third one. I was like, what the hell is this? And maybe I should have stopped at that one, but I'm such a completionist. So it's one of those things where it's very hard for me to not read it unless it's just very terrible. City of Bones, sorry, looking at you. So it's hard to say like, oh, I should have DNF'd that one, but I should have, because I have such fond memories of the first book of the Divergent series. And then you get to the last one, you're like, oh, okay. So, and obviously I'm not the only one of this opinion, because yeah, the movies, like, I think they split the third book in 2 because they were hoping to like get more like the Hunger Games and Harry Potter and all those kind of got split into 2, and then it did so poorly that they never finished it. And if I was someone who actually enjoyed the movies, I would have been so pissed that they did that. But yeah, those are my 2.
So I wrote this, or I chose this question, and so I've had knowledge of it longer than anybody, and I don't have an answer for this. I, like Lauren, but I can't even think of a series that I DNF'd because I was just, I'm not going to read any more of it.
I mean, you have
try
a
not
lot
to.
of series you don't
I have a lot of
finish.
series that I haven't finished, but none of them come to mind as like that. I don't want to finish them. I
Yeah,
just
it's
have
more like just
lots
haven't
of
had
books that I
time.
want to read, and even podcast books. Like there are some podcast books that I probably wouldn't have traditionally picked up, but none of them are really series because we try not to pick books from series,
We have quite a
and we
few that
don't,
are from
and
series.
we try not to. If it's like a listener pick, we try not to do one from. We used to do more series stuff than we do now. I feel like lately we try not to do that. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for this. I don't know of a series that I wish that I would have DNF'd or that I actually have DNF'd and don't ever plan to go back to. So I don't have an answer. I apologize.
I think there's been some podcast ones that we've read that were like maybe first in a series that like I just haven't ever read, or maybe like wouldn't pick up unless it was for the podcast.
It literally is like She Who Became the Sun is a twofer. Daughter of the Moon Goddess is a twofer.
Yeah.
Magic Steeped in Poison is a twofer. I don't know if Under the Whispering Door technically was a standalone, but then I think he made a second one of that one.
Okay, yeah. But none of the ones that we've read on the podcast, I'm like, man, I would never read I think there's been like
Three Body Problem. That's
Three Body Problem is
one
a
that
too.
There's
I literally
3.
own all of those. I want to read them. So that's not,
something.
wouldn't be for me. Maybe for Lauren. She didn't like that.
That's what I was saying. Maybe that's a DNFer.
Maybe, yeah. I think Divergent was the most like regret, I guess, that I should have DNF'd it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot in that we've read that is just in a series, and
All right, fair. Our final category in today's bonus episode is a book you regret reading.
A book I regret reading. It's one of those things where it's like, I hate saying I regret doing things or regret reading books, because, you know, like I did. Because how would you know if you regret reading if you never read it, type thing, you know? But if I have to choose one, it would be In a Dark, Dark Wood. I wish I could erase that book from my memory. It's just terrible. I'm sorry for people who like Ruth Ware. And like I've mentioned this before, I have read her other books, and this is why nowadays I'm just like, if I read an author I did not like the first book, I'm not like, it's going to be very hard for you to convince me to read a second one, because I've got so many other books that I actually want to read. And if there's this one that I just disliked on like such a ungodly amount of a level, like I just don't want to waste my time reading another book of theirs. And that would be hers, In a Dark Wood. Like that is just there's nothing about that. Like I wish I could erase that from my memory and just be like, oh yes. But then maybe I would have that problem where I'd be like, oh, let me pick up another one of her books and waste my time again. My bad. The Cabin in the
Lauren's
Woods.
on video just sobbing because she recommended Ruth Ware to Barbara.
She did. It was. I'm sorry, Lauren. Ruth Ware is just not my jam.
It was back when like we weren't even that good of friends yet. Too,
no,
so like,
yeah, yeah. I know. I like my whole feelings are coming out. I just,
It's okay.
The Cabin in the Woods everyone. Or the 10 Cabins and the Lady. What is it called?
The Woman in
that
Cabin
one.
10.
I read that one. That one's a lot better. Not to say it's good, but it's a lot better than this one. I saw that they made a movie. Did you see that?
They did.
Yeah.
It got made into a movie. So enough people like her.
Oh yeah, Ruth Ware is extremely popular. Once again, not for me. It's just not my jam. No, I didn't.
I really messed up with that recommendation. I ruined Barbara's life.
Not really. I mean, I feel like, you have to recommend books to people and see if they like it or not. I just don't like that type of... Ruth Ware is just not for me. There's other books you have recommended that I absolutely love. So, just, I mean, I'm sure I've recommended a book to you and you're like, oh, what the hell is this? So, I think we're all there.
Okay, mine is one that I read recently. It's a book called Pacific Vortex. And actually, I spray Pacific Vortex. It's got an exclamation mark for some reason at the end of the title, by Clive Cussler. Clive Cussler is like an icon. He's an author. He's huge. He's been around for a long time. It's an older series. By all intents and purposes, I should have loved this book. It's a book about a guy who's like a renowned adventurer. He goes off and like does these crazy cool like adventures and to find things, and it sounded really interesting, and I really didn't like it. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're a huge Clive Cussler fan, you're like, no, I'm willing to read another one if you tell me which one to read. But I read the first one, at least the first one as it's listed on Goodreads, and I did not like it. Ironically, this could have been a DNF one for me because it is a series of 27 books. I've only read one of them, and I'm probably not going to read any of the other ones unless somebody convinces me otherwise.
I don't know how a book series can be 27 books. Like, at this point, are you just watching him like poop? Like, what else is he going to do? He's
going on lots of different adventures. If you look at the list of his series, there's all sorts of stuff. He's kind of a Nathan Drake-esque character from Uncharted, Barbara.
Okay. We just watched that movie, so I get that reference.
Yep.
I do not.
I don't know. It's an older series too, and maybe that's part of it. Like there's a lot of dated ideas in it. There's a fair amount of sexism in it that I didn't really love.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't entirely just say that that's it's a product of its era, because like I've read some of the older James Bond books by Ian Fleming, which have some of that, but I feel like it's not written in a way that makes me go like, ugh. And in this book, I kind of went ugh a couple of times. So
I hate when people say it's a product of its time, because it's not. There's plenty of authors who weren't problematic even back then. I'm just saying.
But it was more common. Like it was more socially acceptable to like publish things with those types of themes because of what was socially acceptable at that time. Not that it was ever been socially acceptable or good. But
I don't know. I feel like you're just trying to give a pass to shitty people, and I'm not down by that,
Oh no, I'm not giving them a pass.
Anyway, Lauren, what book do you regret reading?
Mine's gonna be the same one that I mentioned. I don't remember, probably on a former bonus episode, the Ice Planet Barbarians book.
Oh,
I don't think there's a lot.
Are you sure?
I do. I mean, I think the only reason that I wouldn't regret it would just be that I wouldn't be able to then use it to answer the questions of what book do you regret
exactly.
But yes, I mean, I think, that's the only one I can come up with that I read to completion, and I'm just like, I could have done without that. There's been plenty of books that I've read that I'm like, that wasn't my favorite, but I don't know that I would regret I guess I can't think of titles because that's not how my brain works, but there have been books over time like that it was like a really long book, so I invested like a lot of hours reading it and then got to the end and I'm like, I regret spending all the time that I just spent reading that because I didn't like how it ended or whatever, but I could not think of the titles at the moment. So that was the most obvious one for me.
I feel like saying like I regret reading a book is kind of hard just because it's like at least I can pick and see like things that I like and things I don't like, so then I know like not to pick up a book like that maybe again, or maybe it's the other one and be like, oh, you know what, maybe this particular author is not my jam, but I'm gonna still give these genres a second chance. So I don't know, I feel like you shouldn't regret, everything that you read.
No, that's true. Fair point. Well, that is all we've got for March's bonus episode. Barbara, do you want to bring us home?
That's a weird thing.
You want
Bring us
to
home.
close things out?
It's
Is that a saying?
Yes, it's a figure of speech.
Bring us home? What is the origins
Yes.
of this?
It's a
like
baseball.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't watch baseball, but okay. I will bring us home. Have feedback about today's episode? Contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on one of the plethora of things that we have that Michael will let you know about shortly.
Make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle is @BadassLitPod on both Instagram, Facebook, and Goodreads. And with that, we will see you guys later this month for our full-blown regular episode. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
I'm Lauren.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.